Hi everyone and welcome to this week's WARNO dev blog. As you will note, we didn't get one last week because the guys were away on holiday, but this week we have a brand new one, so let's get into it. First, I would like to hope everyone is well, and though they were away for a few days, they haven't been sitting on their hands, and neither have we apparently. Let's get to it. Today's post we will be talking about the next WARNO milestone, LANNES, and the US 82nd Airborne Division. The next heading on their little blog is a whirlwind of feedback. We turn away 1 minute and a whole brouhaha explodes about units that should be included in WARNO. Units that shouldn't be included, prototypes, more rocket launchers, fewer rocket launchers, Humvees. Guys, just relax, they say. Let's take a breather together. WARNO's development continues at pace and lots of improvements, suggestions, feedback or comments are being taken into account. But we kindly ask that you keep it calm, cool and collected to both them at Eugen and also your fellow players. And keep in mind certain units, mechanics or features make the grade and others may not. And at the end of the day, they aim to make a kick-ass World War III battle simulator that is realistic, authentic and fun to play. But for those clamouring for AT4s and Humvees, they've got you covered. Let's welcome to the stage the daring do troops of the US 82nd Airborne Division. First, we have a little more history. Up to the release of the excellent Bandanner Brothers series, placing the 101st under the spotlight, the 82nd Airborne Division was the American airborne formation to wargamers and history buffs. Raised from World War I, the 82nd Infantry Division fought with distinction at St. Mihiel and Argonne. Not disbanded, it was placed in reserve after World War I, but only really reconstituted in 1921. It was therefore among the few professional standing divisions of the USA when it entered World War II in late 1941. For 6 months it trained back to war shape under the command of Omar Bradley, future American field commander in Europe right under Eisenhower. On August 15, 1942, the 82nd Infantry Division was converted to the 82nd Airborne Division, the first of its kind for the US Army. From then on, the 82nd Airborne will perform almost all American combat jumps in the European ETO. Sicily, Italy, Normandy and the Netherlands. The only one it missed was Operation Varsity in March 1945, performed by the lesser-known 17th Airborne Division. It also took part in the Battle of the Bulge, where it famously turned the German weapons against their former owners. By all accounts, the 82nd Airborne was the best American division in the entire ETO. Its assault crossing of the Rhine River at Nijmegen was regarded by many witnesses as the single greatest feat of arms on the Western Front. After World War II, it was briefly deployed in the Dominican Republic, then sent its 3rd Brigade in Vietnam. Aside from the detached brigade, the 82nd Airborne was almost the only combat-ready division left in the USA during the Vietnam War, alongside a few understrength divisions, while the rest were deployed in Korea, Vietnam or Europe. It was basically the USA's last reserve stateside. With the 101st Airborne being reorganized as an air mobile and then air assault, meaning heliborne division from 1968, 82nd Airborne was the last true US Airborne Division. It is in that role that the 82nd Airborne made its last 2 combat jumps, in Grenada in 1983 and Panama in 1989. We move on to bringing new weaponry to the Americans. We all know the US divisions in the late 80s were in the process of replacing their low rocket launchers and M151 Jeeps with the newer superior AT4s and Humvees respectively. The big question remains the actual scale of this replacement in WARNO's timeline of 1989. As a result, they have decided to make a clear distinction between light and rapid reaction forces such as the 82nd and 101st Airborne, 10th Mountain and 9th Motorized based in the US, and the mechanized formations in West Germany. The former will receive the higher priority in this new equipment, while the latter were at the tail end of the replacement program. From a gameplay perspective, it allows us to classify all Humvees as para regarding the forward deployment trait. I would just like to state that they included this meme picture, it is not one of mine. This means that the new 82nd Airborne Division will be lavishly equipped with both AT4 and Humvees. Our boxy light utility vehicle will come in many shapes and sizes, including command, transport, recon with a heavy machine gun, recon with a Mark 19 automatic grenade launcher, and an ATGM carrier, aka the TOW 2. It will also come as a SAM variant, the form of the M998 Avenger, equipped with a quad Stinger launcher and a 50 cal machine gun. Although not part of any TO&E in the 1989 era, the Avenger had been in production since 1987, and was in operational testing in 1989, right on time for our 2 years to the March of War timeline that we have laid out for WARNO. Now, as I was editing the sound, so I'm adding this in, Hippie just made an interesting point. That means that the Avenger Humvee will technically be forward deployable. It will have a quad Stinger, which is extremely accurate, so that means it will be a forward deployable anti-air, which kind of nullifies the fact that currently aircraft and choppers are the only way to stem the flow of these forward deployables. Are we going to see a clown car rush? Comments down below. And there are even more weapons. Another unique feature of the 82nd Airborne was that it was the last formation to retain the light M551 Sheridan tank. This armoured vehicle could be airdropped, last used in this role during the US invasion of Panama in 1989. During this short conflict, 10 Sheridans were delivered by parachute, 1 failing to open, and 4 others were airlifted by a C-5 Galaxy. With barely any armour and only designed to withstand 20mm rounds, it came with a low-velocity 152mm gun, perfect for infantry support. This gun was much less effective against tanks. As a solution, the problematic Shilag ATGM was developed, which could be fired much like Soviet tanks from the gun barrel. As a parachute and airdroppable formation, the 82nd Airborne Division also relies on light towed weapon systems. These include the M102 105mm howitzer, the M30 107mm mortar, and the M167 Vulcan AA, which is basically an M163 Pivads turret on a trailer, and it really does exist. I had to Google that to double check. And what about the Airborne's air support? Well, like most US divisions, after 1986, the 82nd Airborne will feature its own small organic helicopter wing, deploying the usual OH-58, AH-1 and AH-64 helis. We have also included a few original loadouts to these helicopters in the form of the AH-1 Heavy Hog with Zuni 127mm rockets, and the AA-AH-1 ATAS, which stands for Air-to-Air Stinger, as well as the lightly armed AH-6 Little Bird. Always nice to see a Little Bird added to a game. Heavier aircraft support includes the F-111F bombers, most of the F-16C family including Seed, the F-15C, the F-4E, as well as the A-10A with rockets. Now moving on to some comments about forward deployment. As an airborne division, the formation's infantry and some of its crew-served weapons will be available in the forward deployment option. This means that you'll be able to push fast and grab some ground ahead of the enemy. With most divisions of this type being lightly equipped, they will have a hard time pushing forward after that, and as such with forward deployment, they start out with an advantage but might find it more challenging holding onto that ground and certainly pushing forward. The few Heliborne paras of the division are classified as aero rifles, much as the mechanized divisions. This avoids having these units access to forward deployment with helicopters, which we all agree is a recipe for unsportsmanship behavior. All units that can be forward deployed will be identified by a parachute symbol in their labels going forward. Like recon units, this is a deployment only advantage. Once the game is launched, any remaining airborne units will enter the field as all other reinforcements do. Please note that due to the recent feedback with the previous milestone, recon units forward deployment has been reduced, leaving only the paras able to deploy as far away as recon could before. And some heavy hitting support is the final subtitle here. The Quick Reaction Force, the 18th Airborne Corps, of which the 82nd Airborne Division was part of, had 2 separate heavy brigades attached to it, the 194th Armoured Brigade and the 197th Infantry Brigade, mechanized. In order to give the 82nd Airborne some armoured teeth, we've attached a few elements from the former. The 194th Armoured Brigade was alongside the US Berlin Brigade, one of the few outfits identified as transitioning from the M1 to the IP-M1, an up-armoured M1 Abrams but retaining the original 105mm gun, instead of directly going to the M1A1. As such, the 82nd Airborne Division will have access to a handful, rarely more than a single card might we add, of the IPM-1, the M125 mortar, the M107 SPG, and mechanized infantry in an M113. None of these heavy units will have access to forward deployment. And that's it for this week. They say see you on the battlefield, and leave us with this lovely gif of a few choppers, and I do love that little bird. Thanks for watching, everyone. As always, please do like, share, subscribe, comment down below. What do you think of these new units? What do you think of these changes to the forward deployment system, and the fact that recon will be no longer forward deployed as far as it could be? Thanks again for watching, and have a great weekend.